Hello, what's up, and a very warm welcome to all my viewers from around the world. Magpie842 here, coming at you guys with another 1v1 live game. Featuring today, spawning in the south, it's the Soviet forces of VonAsten. And spawning up in the north, it's the Overcommand West forces of swc913. The map today is going to be Angoville. This is one of the maps which was added in when the British forces came out. It's kind of a nice, quiet, almost peaceful sort of farming village with some fields on the left side. There's a little crashed RAF glider here. And it's kind of more open on the left-hand side, as you can see. Machine guns do good work out here, anti-tank guns likewise. And then on the right, we've got a lot more sort of built-up garrisonable buildings and an interesting wall structure. Here it is. In the south, Scuffer here is some Storm Pioneers going to get the drop on these engineers, and those engineers are going to need to pull back, I imagine, unless the Storm Pioneers just spontaneously abandon that chase, probably in response to these conscripts. Oh dear. Now, Storm Pioneers at this range, if they just stand still, can actually do decent damage against garrison troops. Oh, I like the way he's come around to the side of the building with just 2 windows as well. That's really going to help. Here come the engineers, though, and I'm not sure if these Storm Pioneers are going to trade effectively. What you have to remember is they've only killed 1 conscript, and at the moment you've lost 1 Storm Pioneer, and the amount of damage on that Storm Pioneer squad is more than worth the veterancy which you gained from shooting those conscripts and those engineers. You have to be very careful with Storm Pioneers. They are elite troops, they arrive very early, they're very expensive, and they hand out a lot of veterancy to your opponents who put fire on them. So that trade I don't actually think was worth it at all. I'm not really sure. His hand was kind of forced by the conscripts coming around from here, and that is well played from VonAsten. Now, swc913 has chosen his commander. It's going to be the Luftwaffe Ground Forces Doctrine. So picking it a little bit early, still needs another half a command point before he'll have access to that MG34 machine gun team. But I can see why he's chosen that one. It seems like a good map for it. Plenty of structures to spawn your Fallschirm Jaegers for, plenty of good arcs for an MG34 LMG. And then moving on later into the game, Valiant Assault is always useful, as is the, what's it called, Airborne Assault, I believe? Yeah, as is the Airborne Assault. So, yep, a reasonable choice there. Actually, this is one of those maps that actually is pretty good for all the commanders. So, oh wow, look, the blood-spattered paint job on this M5, really noticeable. Brutal. Sorry, it's an M3A1, my bad. So, M3 is going to come out, and that is actually going to counter the Kugelwagen, which was the choice here from swc913. But the Storm Pioneers, which actually are quite a viable counter if they can get close enough to the scout car, are going to come in here and force that back. The Kugelwagen also getting really good damage onto that scout car, so he's going to have to pick up the engineers. It's going to get out, and I imagine we'll see that probably repair if it can find a safe spot to do so. It should. In fact, if you're going to pursue here, I like sending the Kugelwagen to here and your infantry this way, because that way you'll get a few more shots if it retreats this way, and if it comes this way, you pretty much got it. So just a small note there, a small note on the splitting. If I correct the tack, you can see that at the moment both players are prioritising the right-hand side of the map. Reason being, that's where 2 of the victory points are. The left does have a victory point, it does have a fuel and a munition point, so definitely worthwhile holding. As I come here to frame the action, we've got a unit of conscripts in their building, and they're going to be taking heavy fire from Storm Pioneers at close range, supported by a Kugelwagen. They're going to need to get out of there. They're down to 2 men, now 1. There's a danger of a squad wipe here, but he is going to get out. And there's no overcommand forces behind that conscript, so he's going to get out just fine. Kugelwagen in a great position, going to suppress these conscripts, and I imagine the Storm Pioneers should hoover them up. And blazing with their STGs through that window. The Storm Pioneers are up to 1-star vet now, which means that they can deploy medkits, which could be useful. And here we see an MG34 team moving onto the field. Now that should really help, combined with the Kugelwagen, provide a lot of area control for the overcommand player. These Volks are going to be forced back by the scout car, which is repaired and is coming back with the engineers. We'll probably see a flamethrower for that as soon as VonAsten has the necessary 60 munitions. Let's go and take a quick look, if we can, just in the midst of this combat. Let's take a quick look at the teching for the Soviet player. So far we see it's the Tier 1 Special Rifle Command, of course. That's what enables him access to the scout car. He hasn't gone for any of his HQ upgrades yet. No Molotovs, no AT grenades, no medics going to be available just yet. And meanwhile, the Schwerer Max-Schlepper for SWC has not been deployed, so this is a reasonably late deployment. The build for him, he's gone 3 Volks, an MG34 and a and a Kugelwagen. So yeah, we'll have to see We'll have to see what he decides to do with that truck. It seems like he's got a really good area. I would like to see him deploy it as a battle gripper headquarters, possibly just here. This is a very defensible position. He's got the area on lockdown. Yeah, it's risky. If you vacate these buildings and your opponent gets a maxim in there, then that is bad times, but I still quite like the positioning here, and you shouldn't really ever have to yield this area, especially if you defend it with a couple of likes. Now the M5 is going to take a dive, that kind of rhymes, to get the Kugelwagen here, and that it will. The gun on that M5, very good at dealing with the Kugelwagen, which is going to reverse for its life, but it is all for naught. And there we have the Kugelwagen down. Sorry, it's called an M3, isn't it? I always call it an M5, and I'm not sure why. That's the half track, isn't it? And anyway, the M3 doing fantastic damage there. It's a really good counter to the Kugelwagen. It's going to come back and help clear off these Volkswagens. And with that, the right-hand side of the map kind of falling into the command of the VonAsten's Soviet forces a little more. The MG34 in this building back here is going to prove thorny even for the scout car to displace. But as soon as he can afford a flamethrower, that should hurry things along there a little bit. Now, we do have a commander chosen here for VonAsten. It's the Partisan Tactics commander. Now, this is less controversial than it used to be, owing to the massive buffs that the Partisan troops have had in the September 17th patch. Now, I've got the patch notes printed out just here, so whilst the action's going on, I'm just going to read from the patch notes here. I'll try and frame the action as best I can, but I am actually paying most of my attention right now to this piece of paper in front of me. Is this flamethrower team going to scorch out the MG team? We've also got a scuffle going on here. Now, let me just see. Ah, here we go. So, Partisans. Relic states, we wanted to give some consistency and utility to Partisans. Anti-infantry Partisans are now always equipped with the PPSH submachine guns, and the PPSH damage has been doubled from 2 to 4. That's right, doubled. Anti-tank Partisans will now always be equipped with Panzerschrecks. Anti-tank Partisans now replace irregulars. They've added the Partisan grenade to the anti-infantry Partisans, so we can see grenades off of those squads, and camouflage has been added to both Partisans, so a number of buffs coming out there. Now, I've not actually seen it yet, so I'm not gonna say anything, but I have seen some complaints on the forums that the new anti-infantry Partisans are quite rapid at squad wiping units. So, looking forward to that. Let's see now. Partisan troops, they cost 210 manpower. They are available right now for VonAsten. He's got the radio intercept, which is well, you can take a view on how useful that ability is. I actually think a good player can use that information effectively, and I quite like to have radio intercept. One of my favourite commanders for the Soviet Union is, what's his name? He's the guy who gets the T-34-85 single call-in, which is now just an upgrade, and he also gets the radio intercept. He gets the conscript PPSHs. Oh, I can't remember his name. Oh well, anyway. So what I'm saying is that's a cool ability. We've also got the spy network, so that reveals enemy units on the minimap for 15 seconds for the price of 50 munitions. Can be very valuable. And Axis forces now more or less dominant on the left side of the map, but cunning cut-off here by taking this point, not actually getting any resource income right now are the Overcommand forces, and that is a massive, massive disadvantage to be at. A very, very canny use of the cut-off mechanics here by VonAsten. Now I'm just going to take a look in the main base, and oh my goodness, he's one of these players who likes to deploy his battle group at headquarters in his main base. To his credit, he is actually building a light gun, so that's some more value he's getting out of this building. But any of you who've watched previous casts where a player has used a build like this, I am quite critical of these builds. I don't like them very much. Now, wow, this is getting out of hand, actually. There's a perimeter of units utilising the buildings around here. We do have some Partisan troops. They are camo. They do have the PPSHs. There's a perimeter of units on the right flank of the map, and I mean, all of the Axis forces are in the home sector. There's a siege of Soviet units here. This is a really bad place to be. He's lost his MG34, and that has been swiped by the Soviets. Oh dear. This is terrible news. Basically, swc913 is in a bad place. He needs to get out from under this siege. Good dodge there, dodging the incendiary grenade with these conscripts. Very well done by VonAsten, who is clearly on top of his micro right now. Now these Partisan troops, they might garrison this building, they might just sprint in, but I'd love to see them have a crack at these Volks. Here they come. So let's take a look at the damage. Significant. I think we can say significant. That's probably going to be a squad wipe. That is almost certain to be a squad wipe. Just going to chase this last man down here. Now the Liger's firing shells in. Yep, there we go. So, yes, definitely quite good. We can say for sure. Very good, the Partisan troops. Quite fragile, though. as we see from the return fire on these Storm Pioneers. But for how much? For 210 and 6 unit cap for a squad of that potency. Seems like a bargain. Seems like an absolute bargain. So, yeah, maybe this commander is really up to something now. I'm not even sure if I have this commander. I might have to check, because I'd quite like to give it a play. Seems quite fun. He also gets, what, Mark Vehicle, which is, yeah, pretty useful. So, new Schwerermark is here. It's going to be pushing out on the right flank. The forces of swc913 now are pretty much all reinforced, ready to go. So it's on him to make a play. He fans most of his forces out to the right. Would love to grab at least one victory point. Oh wow, actually this whole time he has had one over here. So things not so bad, at least from a score point of view. SWC down at the moment, 429 under 494 for VonAsten. So quite a lead, about a 70-point lead. 73, 67 even. Point lead there for VonAsten, but respectable at the 10 or 11 minute mark. Definitely something to be working with. I can hear combat going on the left, and that is a partisan team who have salvaged the MG34. They're going to be suppressing these Volks. You'll probably just want to stay and grab this point and then fall back. Good use of flamethrowers here. Penal Legion really being quite nasty. And I'll tell you what, actually, when you go for this partisan doctrine, let me just take a look at the base. Yeah, you can pretty much get away with just going tier 1. You don't really need Maxims, you don't really need Zis guns, because your partisans have very potent anti-infantry and anti-tank capabilities. So that's a pretty cool touch. I like that. Yeah, this is an interesting build, one which VonAsten clearly quite comfortable with. He's gonna, oh, I don't know, he's just showing me some interesting stuff. Now, yeah, this MG34 has these guys badly suppressed, but they're actually fairly low on health. All 3 victory points now in the hands of the Soviets. The light gun is good, but I'd love to see him get another. I think 2 is the right number to have right now. Yeah, you see the light gun is doing work right now. It is just making life really, really annoying. Oh, what have we got here? Is this the Schwerer Panzer HQ? Oof, this is... this is quite far back, but actually, I do quite like that, actually. I mean, because A, he doesn't have much choice. B, he doesn't really want to risk it, because if he was to lose that, based on how far behind he is already, that would pretty much be game for SWC913. Oh my god, this MG34 is just doing work right now. Because you've got to remember, if they didn't salvage this MG34, there is no way that the Russian forces would have access to a machine gun. Because he didn't go for the tier 2 building. Now here comes a massive deployment of forces coming to back up the Schwerer Panzer HQ, which is on incredibly low health, but that thing should finish. And it has. There we go. Now the Storm Pioneers can start repairing it, and we can also start seeing maybe some Obersoldaten on the build queue in the near future. And that's going to help. But the Soviet forces joined now by a T-70 light tank. Now there is a Rakettenwerfer. It's just falling back to base right now. Here it is. But that T-70 is going to have rule of the field for a little while now. We might see a Shrek round fired at it. Nope, it's not going to happen. The T-70 is going to kite back. Takes a couple of hits from the Schwerer Panzer HQ. A little bit careless there from VonAsten. Probably didn't mean to do that. I'm not sure I like a fallback being used here. This seems like an unnecessary fallback. The reason I say is you could just walk your troops back and heal them, but that way you can change your mind. By falling back, you're committing them to being out of the fight. And yeah, so let's crack the tack. We can see here finally able to secure 2 resource points, which, I mean, you know, it's something. It's better than having none. And but SWC913, his forces really, really are just in his base, a constant siege of Soviet units. This is a game which VonAsten is clearly in control of right now. So it remains to be seen whether SWC913 can get out from under this. He really needs to make some impact out on the board. He needs to get the lag to kill this MG. How long has this MG been firing? Get the lag to kill the damn MG, man. You've had the lag for ages, and I've not seen it fire once at the MG. Here we go. There we go. See, this is how we deal with MGs. Very good. And here's a, what is this? This is a T-70 coming in from the south. That's going to flump those grenadiers down. There we go. See, now he's bought himself some machine gun free time on the left flank. Now he can start making some moves. Now he can move up the Rakettenwerfer. What? The Rakettenwerfer was fighting these conscripts. Not sure I fully comprehend why it was over there. Rakettenwerfer at the moment is going to be best in sort of this kind of location. And then you wait till the T-70 shows up, and then you deploy it to where the T-70 is. Yes, the T-70 is faster and can move, but I mean, otherwise you're just relying on luck of the T-70 driving into it. And I don't think that's really going to happen. M5 Scout Car still alive in this game. Going to be 2-star vet very shortly. These are partisan anti-infantry geezers. What are they called? Partisan troops. They're going to be doing good work. An incendiary grenade coming down here. Whoa, those conscripts getting massacred too. Down to 1 man. Wow, that was a good grenade. I'm pretty sure the old Model 24 wouldn't have achieved that much damage. Even going to get some damage onto this squad as well. His men are standing in that grenade. It's going to get him down to about 2/3 of health. Going to help out those Volks in the fight. Here comes a Lukes. I'm just going to say it. I don't like the choice of the Lukes. I know he might feel like his hand is forced because he's so far behind at the moment, but I think I like saving that field. The reason I don't like the Lukes is because your opponent's got partisans with Shreks, and your opponent's also got a T-70. And the T-70 beats the Lukes in a fight. Absolutely beats it. I mean, the Lukes is a great unit, very potent, can be incredibly dangerous. I just don't think that this is the battlefield for it. The times when I buy a Lukes is when I'm looking to apply pressure in a very aggressive way, read not defensive, and when I've got units, or when I'm on top in a game but my opponent is frustratingly slipping units into my backfield and decapping my points and things, and then you can just use a Lukes, not on the front line, but just to police your backfield and stop them being annoying. So those are like the two times that I like a Lukes. There's one other time I'll build a Lukes. That's when I go for a very particular build, which I use with a very particular commander, and the Lukes is just the right thing at the right time. I'll explain that another time. Anyway, the Lukes is going to come out and do some good damage here. Going to take a Shrek to the flank, but it can take one of those, and it's going to do excellent damage to these partisans. I'd love to see SWC913 get another Lig, because this Lig is providing utility right now. It is genuinely a thorn in the side of the Soviets. And finally we see a land grab here being possible on the right flank. The Lukes, the Lig, the units, the infantry coming together to enable him to push out. And if I crack the tack, you can see he now possesses one of the 3 victory points, and he's up from just 2 points to 4 points. And if he's very lucky, he might actually control this fuel point for a while. Unlikely, given the amount of infantry moving out. But this is what I mean. Look at this. Now imagine you have 2 Ligs. Much, much better. See what I mean? Also, the positioning on the Lig, where is it? Here, far too defensive. It's way out of range for a lot of the good targets you can be getting. I would position it here behind this building, or maybe even here behind this truck in the heavy cover, because if it gets threatened, you just run it back to the Panzer HQ. Simple. Requires a little bit of foresight, sure. Okay, and then an anti-tank grenade's going to come in. 2 anti-tank grenades coming in off these conscripts, dealing a lot of damage to this Lukes, which is going to have to retreat slowly back. Now, where are the partisan tank hunters? Repairing, rearming, the T-70 likewise, so there's no opportunity at the moment to kill this. The Rakettenwerfer gets taken out, didn't quite see how, but you've got to imagine it's something to do with this flamethrower. Storm Pioneers getting into close range, trying to prevent the recap on this. They're going to blaze down the guys who tried to recap it. Now, do you salvage, do you reman this, or do you just salvage it? That's the question right now for SWC, and I think I like remanning it, which I'm kind of sad to say in a way. I think that's what he's going to do, and he does, so he should pull these forces back to get them repaired, and he does. Oh no, his Storm Pioneers are being... when your Storm Pioneers are salvaging, they're very, 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 very fragile, so very dangerous having them exposed to fire while salvaging. They can all just suddenly die to a few unlucky rifle hits. I'm just going to pause just now to have a little sip on my apple juice. Oh, that is tasty stuff. Well, that is incredibly sharp Bramley apple juice. Love it. Anyway, as I turn my attention back to the battlefield, we can see the T-70 being deployed on the left flank. It's going to mow down some of these guys. In fact, the Shrek up... Oh, he should have stayed for a Shrek shot there. The Shrek upgrade finishing at the perfect time. He could have just got one shot into that T-70 before falling back. But hey, we're not all gods like me, apparently. I'm sorry, it's just occurred to me. I've been really critical of SWC913, and I am not the best of players at the best of times, so a little bit of sarcasm needed there. Fallschirmjägers are now on the field, which are a little bit late, but I like nonetheless. Fantastically potent unit against infantry, gonna just take back this victory point. And the scores now, SWC finds himself at 160 under the 494 of his opponent, trailing by 334 tickets. So not a great place to be right now. But things have definitely been slowly improving. Now, if he keeps this up, will they have improved enough that he can make a move in this sort of mid-late or the late-mid game? Well, we've got to hope so. We've got to hope so for SWC's sake. And, so he's up to 5 Volks now, 5 Volks and a Fallschirmjäger squad who are suppressed right now by this MG34, which has been doing work for the Soviet forces, has to be said. And look, see the Lig? It's too far back. I don't think it's in range of this MG34, but if it was behind this building, absolutely, you just immediately click the Lig, put a barrage on that, start putting some pressure in, love it. As it turns out, he might be able to use the Lukes here as a counter. I like running the Lukes a little bit wider around here. I think these conscripts here, see, they're just going to oorah and anti-tank grenade it. You can't bring it this close, you've got to run wider like this and use the range on the Lukes. So yeah, he's gonna need repairs here, which he's gonna do in a moderately risky spot, but it's more or less okay because he's being covered by the Schwerer HQ. Now, claiming the left-hand victory point is SWC. Attaboy out on the map doing some work. This is what I like. Even the Rakettenwerfer getting out and capping some points, and he's going to move for the munitions point. Now, he's grabbed the fuel point, but just as I say that, Conscript's getting the all-important cut-off point. The Lux escapes with its life only just on 1-star veterancy, giving it access now to the cautious movement ability. A T-34-76 danger now for SWC on the right flank. But you can see invisible that tank is now. Oh, he's got a load of infantry here he's not using. They're ready to go. They want to be out on the field. Let's just keep an eye on the minimap and watch for them to start fanning out. There they go. Fantastic. Now, oh dear, this infantry in jeopardy now. The T-34-76 has an incredibly potent anti-infantry bite. Sometimes that shell just kills 3-4 guys, you can never tell, so it's a risk, always a risk fighting a T-34 with infantry, but you know, when you got to do it, you got to do it. Now, I wonder if SWC remembers that you can garrison buildings with the Panzerwerfer, because if he focuses the Lig on this building, makes a push on this location, gets the Panzerwerfer in here, that pretty much locks down large amounts of the right flank. I'd love to see him do that. Meanwhile, on the left flank, the T-90 pushing up, 2 squads of Soviet troops coming up. I think this Panzerwerfer wants to... I would just fall it back right now. It's going to get ganked otherwise by a lot of infantry and the T-70. The T-70 finds itself some nice soft infantry to start chewing into. It's going to force them back. He's going to take a risk and leave this squad here to cap this point. I like that because this is the connection point, which will get him a fair amount of bonus fuel. SWC now nearly with enough fuel for a Panzer IV, which I think would be a nice choice right now. I think a Panzer IV would be able to police the field quite nicely. So we'll see what happens with that. The Lig now up to 14 kills, 2-star vet. I mean, I do keep criticising it for being in a bad position, and I still maintain that it is, but at least it has been firing for a large majority of the game. There we go, finally forcing this MG back, but only because the MG moved into its range. He was unwilling to reposition it, even by, look, you can see the distance. The edge of the Lig's range is here where my cursor is, so he would have had to reposition it this distance, which if we go and look at the Lig, would have been to about here to get rid of that MG a lot earlier. I mean, try and argue that that's not worth it, because trust me, I think it really is. Anyway, yep, so these Volks up to 5-star now. They're going to be forced back by the flamethrower. How much munitions is SWC on? 48. I kind of like the idea of lobbing an incendiary grenade at these guys at that point. And I have to say, actually, one bonus of the Lig being in this position is its range now does extend out onto the left flank quite considerably. And you can see the influence of the, at 1-star it gets extended weapon range. You can see the influence of that on this map. Like, look at the range on the Lig, it's going all the way out to here, so if you look at the minimap, like, consider where this is, you know, the Lig is covering probably a third of this map from the Overcommand player's base. That's nice. That's the kind of power you can't buy. Yeah, you have to earn it with 1-star veterancy. So 3-star squad of conscripts here, the Lux should be able to make short work of them. Oh, wow, I seem to have missed the death of the T-70 light tank. Apologies for that, a lot of action going on across the map right now, so I wasn't able to cover that. T-34 on the right flank being imposing. Down to 70 points now is SWC. Now he's got a reasonably competent force, and by stretching himself across the entire map, VonAsten's forces are a little tired. Going up to a 3rd T-70. Oh wow, and also a booby trap on this point, killing a lot of Volks there. And it appears that that was the final straw. SWC913 unwilling to play on in the face of this partisan tactics from VonAsten. And yeah, a really good game, well played from VonAsten. He was on top from the get-go and able to maintain that advantage through the early game into the mid, utilizing a nice ramp-up of Soviet units we saw from conscripts into the M3A1 scout car. Then he was into partisans to help him maintain a powerful lead in the early game. The T-70 came out, that did work all game, and was able to secure him enough field advantage in tandem with this MG34, which he was able to steal, to tide him over until T-34-76s were an option. And now you can see, you know, there's 2 on the field, a 3rd on the way. Those tanks are cheap, and they take up very little unit cap. See, with 2 of them out and all these squads of infantry, he's still on 64 out of 100 unit supply. So really leveraging the advantages of the Soviets there. Now, SWC913, he didn't play an awful game, but I do think he made a number of strategic and tactical, I don't know, calling them interesting choices is a bit of a euphemism. I'm going to say that they were suboptimal. And that's a harsh thing to say, but I've watched enough games now that I kind of think that I've got it right. I think deploying the battle group at HQ here it's just not enough. Like, again, this is just so underwhelming. For 200 manpower, 40 fuel, having this building sat in your base healing dudes. I mean, so all it did this game was heal dudes in his base. Yes, that's totally cool. That's a valid thing. And one lig was built from it. Okay, and that took up his entire first truck. Now imagine in your head if he built the mechanized company HQ here, he would have had bonus fuel income. He could have gotten a Puma to deal with the T-70 and the scout car, and even threaten the tanks in the mid game. He could have gone for a flak truck if he really wanted to decimate some infantry. I probably wouldn't have done that. And there's always the option of the Stukas of Fus for some real ground-pounding power. And that would have also accelerated his path into the Schwerepanzer HQ by boosting his fuel income. Yeah, I think deploying this truck here, I think he had control over this region of the map in the early game. I think deploying the Battle Gripper HQ either here or here is pretty nice choices. And that provides you a lot more utility because it provides a forward strong point, which is very hard for opponents to approach because, of course, you're constantly reinforcing and healing at that location. And if you decide to, you can spend 300 manpower to make it your fallback point, and that sets you up for making some aggressive pushes down to grab this point, and I think that would have been very achievable had he deployed his Battle Gripper HQ truck here. But after that, I think deploying the Schwerepanzer HQ here was necessary. Now again, if you were able to deploy your Battle Gripper HQ truck here, hold this area, then you can try and look to put the Schwerepanzer HQ truck, I don't know, here, and that's a much more thorny issue for your opponent, commands a lot more of a relevant chunk of the battlefield. But beyond that, I like the unit choices. I think going up to the numbers of Volks was good. I think the, what are they called? Sorry, Fallschirmjäger were good. I think they were a little late. I think the use of the Rakettenwerfer was way off. He was sending it out to the left flank all the time, using it to capture points and falling back at the first sign of danger. I think you've got to lurk that somewhere near the heart of your forces and deploy it to counter armor or garrison it in a building. I think those are much better choices for that unit. I also think that the Lig was fantastic, and I think its positioning could have been slightly more aggressive, but actually it was even quite good where it was. And I think if it could have just been joined by another Lig, then the Soviet forces would have been considerably hampered when operating in his half of the map, which I think would have been really good for stabilizing him, which he was never able to do. So, that's Magpie 842's critique. You can take it or leave it. You can take a view on it. Either I know what I'm talking about or I don't, and I'm afraid I can't tell you which of those is accurate. So that's for you to decide. So yeah, that concludes this broadcast. Thank you very much for watching. This is Magpie 842 signing out.